I now want to show you a video by Jack D. Schwager. He is a financial author that's created many famous books within the market known as the Market Wizards series, where he has interviewed some of the top traders in the world, guys that have managed massive hedge funds and that have done crazy well for themselves within the markets. He's interviewed them and he knows the game pretty well. And in this video, he explains what are the key qualities that the world's most successful traders have and how have they gone about creating their wealth and having done so well within the markets. The quality of the video is not that great and it's quite old and outdated, but the content and information relayed within this video is anything but outdated and old. It is so relevant to any time within the market, and it is a critical thing that all aspiring traders and any person that trades the market needs to be aware about in terms of creating the edge and how they trade the market. So let's go ahead, watch the video now, and we'll pick it up after that.
Thank you. It's great to be in front of a crowd of which is almost pure traders, I would assume. First thing I want to say, even though most of you are traders, I assume probably a lot of people here do something else in their for the regular profession. Also, probably some spouses got dragged along unwillingly. So to make this talk relevant, I can assure you that all the points I'm going to talk about, really all the points, apply not only to success in trading, but to success in general. So that's the first thing. Now we'll start out with what's not important, because people think that trading has to do with some sort of secret formula, some magic, whether it's Elliott or Gann or anybody else. You find a formula and you'll get rich, and that's what success in the markets is about. And I think it's really a very wrong way of looking at it. And let me illustrate it by giving you a couple of examples to make it absolutely clear. We'll take some individuals. First, we'll start with Jim Rogers. Most of you, I assume, know Jim Rogers, the fellow with the bow tie. Used to work with George Soros running the Quantum Fund back in the 70s. It was the most successful fund at the time. He quit because he got tired of the management aspect. He's been investing his own money for the past couple of decades very successfully. Brilliant guy. If you read my interview with him back, which was done now about 13 years ago, all of his projections were exactly right. He was talking about the top of the Japanese stock market right before it topped. He talked about it going down, the Nikkei going down from 30,000 plus at the time. He said it would go down to 10,000. Incredible projection. He talked about gold at the time going down for the next 10 years. Every projection you look at, he was exactly on. Okay, so he's basically a fundamental analyst, but I asked him, Jim, you ever look at charts? And he says, like he's admitting a sin. He says, you mean if I just look at it just to see where the market's been? Yeah, I'll look at it. But do I believe in any of this head and shoulders, mumbo jumbo garbage? No, it's all nonsense. And he says, I've never met a rich technician. And then he pauses to be cute. He says, unless you count the ones that sell their services. So I don't know if you can get more cynical. I don't know if you can get more cynical about technical analysis than Jim Rogers. And for Jim, a short-term trade's like 2 years. Okay, that's one side. Other side of the fence, take Marty Schwartz, who's a stock index trader. I interviewed Schwartz. It happened to be coincidentally just the time he was putting together a track record. And a lot of these traders, they trade their own money. You don't actually get the luxury of having their track record per se. In this case, he was thinking of managing public money, so he had to have an audited track record put together. She gave me his 10-year track record when I was doing, before I did the interview. And over that 10-year period, Marty had compiled an average return of 25%. Now, usually I say that, the audience doesn't seem to be very impressed. So let me clarify that. 25% per month. All right. Now I've got your interest. Okay. Now, some of the quantitatively oriented people in the audience are going, wait, 25% a month? How come he didn't own half the US JNP? Right? That really compounds. Well, Marty's father went through the Depression and instilled in his son a great fear of things going wrong. So Marty, even though, and this you can go back, you look at he was doing these trading contests with real money, not these hypothetical contests. He's putting in $400,000, turning it into $1.2 million in 4 months, going back, putting the profits in T-bills, going back to 400. He kept on doing that for 10 years. He kept on going from 400 up to over $1 million and back down to 400, and kept on putting the money into T-bills because he had this fear of something going wrong. So that's why he still made a lot of money, but it didn't compound to God knows how much. Anyway, Marty, talking about technical analysis, is paraphrasing people like Jim Rogers. And he says, I never met a rich technician. You know, what a stupid, arrogant type of attitude. He said, I spent 10 years on Wall Street as a fundamental analyst. I lost money every year, and I got rich as a technician. So you really can't get much more different than that. So what I'm trying to do is trying to give you people here who are phenomenally successful using pure fundamental analysis on one hand and complete disdain for technical analysis, and people who have been enormously successful using pure technical analysis and complete cynicism about fundamental analysis, right? So you can't get further apart. It's got to tell you one thing. It's got to tell you there's no single way. There's no single road. There's no single message. If you're looking for that, you haven't even got the right question, let alone the right answer. So I'm going to quote myself. I don't quote myself very often, but I will for one time in this talk. And in one of my books, I used the line because I think it applies to this, and I said, there's a million ways to make money in the markets, and they're unfortunately all very difficult to find. But there are many, many ways. So the first thing to realize is you have to find a path and not to find the path. Okay, that leads us to the first principle. And if you take nothing else out of this talk, if you just take this out of it, it'll be worthwhile, I guarantee you. And that is every trader I ever interviewed, I could say this about. They found a method that fit their personality. Now, some of you may say, well, doesn't everybody do that? I mean, it seems logical. Wouldn't you trade your own? Well, no, you really wouldn't. Think about it. If those are your traders, you probably could think of examples right off the bat. But I've known certainly traders who may have had, let's say, a good knack analytically and could have done really well putting together some systematized approach and traded it, but no, too boring. Or no, they have to second guess it. Or no, they have to be more involved, or it's too slow, or whatever. Or you have traders who are really good on the floor. They got the real instincts, but they get tired of all these fellows up in the office trading 10 times as much as they are in all these markets, so they want to be one of those guys up in the fancy office and so on. And they go do that, and they become a mediocre trader off the floor. You constantly have people doing things which are not fitting to their personality. Now, let me illustrate what I mean by trading to fit your personality. Again, let's take specific examples, specific people. First, we'll take Paul Tudor Jones. Paul, one of the great future traders, of our time, and particularly in his initial years when he was managing small amounts of money, just had some incredible, a decade, 10, 15 years of incredible performance. When I interviewed him, he said, come to my office at 2 o'clock, And I said, I knew he's an active trader, so I said, well, Paul, I can come after the market closed, no problem. He said, no, come 2 o'clock, it's fine. Okay, come to his office, big office, screens all the way across the walls. He's got speaker phones that directly connect to the floors. He got regular phones. He got people bringing him messages. He's yelling out, sell 300 March S&P, buy 500. All during the interviews, selling and buying, and people, and phones are ringing, and everything's going on. He's looking at the screens, and he's doing the interview, okay? So I kind of say, like watching Paul trade is sort of like watching a professional tennis player on speed or something like that. I mean, it's just like really active and aggressive. That's Paul. That's his style. That works for him. Let's take another picture. Gil Blake. Gil Blake is a mutual fund timer. When I interviewed him, he had a 12-year track record, average returns of about 45% per year. Very steady. His worst year was like plus 35. His worst was plus 35. His best was about plus 55. Never lost more than 5% from a peak to a valley. Very, very consistent trader. What did he do? Interesting way he got into the markets. He was a financial officer for a firm, knew nothing about trading or investing, and a friend of his came in one day and said, "Look, Gil, I found this. I've been timing mutual funds, and I've got this little pattern that I found, and it works." And Gil says, "Nonsense, nothing that simple is going to work. Give it to me." And so he took the numbers and he went over it, and it worked. He couldn't find anything that was really wrong with it. And that got him intrigued. Then he started really looking at it more closely, and he came up with patterns that were really much more effective. And he became so convinced that there was something there that he quit his job and he became a trader, which led to the performance record I told you about. He would go to the library. He didn't even use a computer to do his work. He would go to the library, look through microfiche, look for all these mutual fund prices, and look for patterns. And just spend weeks in the library just flipping through these price patterns. Now, and he'd go back and he'd be trading out of his bedroom at home, and that was his style. No other people, no other phones, no computers, nothing. That's Gil Blake. Now, could you picture Gil Blake in Paul Tudor Jones's office Could you picture Paul Tudor Jones and Gil, going through the microfiche? I mean, it just is such a contrast. And if even one tried to do the other, they would absolutely fail. So you have to find a method that fits your personality. That message, by the way, also leads to an interesting tangential observation. And it's why most people will be doomed to fail trading a system they bought. And if there are vendors here of systems, I apologize, but it's a reality. Now, why is that true? I don't know what % of trading systems are profitable. Maybe, I'll grant, let's say even more than 50% are. Let's just take that as an assumption. The trouble is this: every trading system, I don't care what it is going to hit periods where it's not going to do well. Now, if you buy a system, particularly if it's a total black box, and you don't know what's in it, you didn't develop it, it has nothing to do with your personality, the first time that it hits a bad period, you're not going to have faith. You're going to lose it. You're going to drop it. And that's why invariably most people who buy systems end up losing, because they will stop using it when it goes through a bad period. They won't be there when it recovers. Again, it has to do with trading what matches your personality.